Hi friends, Happy New Year. Erin the Impatient Gardener here. I live and garden in zone 6A, southeastern Wisconsin. I am going to try this year to just say zone 6A because that is my zone, whether I garden that way or not. Like many people, I got sort of a big bump up. Well, not a big bump, but a half a zone increase when the USDA hardiness zone map changed in 2023. And so I keep fudging that by saying I'm a zone 5B, 6A. But really this year I should just call myself what I am, because even before we weren't necessarily gardening according to what our zone number was, because we all know that that zone hardiness map is, I don't want to say problematic, but it is not the only thing that we should base what we grow in our gardens. In any case, if you are new here, welcome. On Sundays, I try to do a casual garden stroll where we walk around the garden. I talk through what I'm thinking, what's looking good. We look at some plants. We just kind of talk a little bit. And pretty much I put that video up on YouTube with no editing or very little editing, usually just to edit out a swear word or two. But today we're not going to walk around the garden because we walked around the garden last week. And it has not changed much since then, although now we're back to having snow. Was it last week that we had no snow? I don't know. Anyway, we got a little snow back again. Instead of that, I thought I would just kind of talk through a little bit of what I'm doing gardening-wise right now, because this is a wonderfully restorative time for me to take a little break from constantly thinking about gardening. I'm taking care of a few little projects inside the house, which always feels really good to me because I don't know about you guys, but for me, house projects absolutely get thrown by the wayside as soon as I'm out in the garden. Like every bit of free time I have is dedicated to the garden, so the house can really go to heck. So I've been doing a lot of cleaning, a lot of getting rid of stuff, just going through closets. I have a lot of painting to do. I'm looking around my kitchen right now, and it's been a while since I've touched up trim, and I actually want to give the walls a coat of paint. So I'm hoping that some of those projects get done this winter, but all of this time I'm thinking, every time I'm working on something, I'm not far from the garden. I'm always thinking about what's happening in the garden and what I need to do. So seed starting, of course, is on a lot of gardeners' minds. How could it not be? I mean, these are just a few of the seed catalogs. I've actually gone through and actually recycled the ones that I don't intend to order from, but these are a few that have come just in the past week or so. And this year every year I take a little bit of a different approach to seed starting. I enjoy playing around with it to see what fits the place I'm at in my garden the best. So there are some years where I have started absurd amounts of seeds, more than I can handle and more than I need or want. I'm not really known for restraint when it comes to plants, and seeds are so easy to just keep sowing them because you think they're cheap. And I can always use extra plants in my garden, which is true. My garden seems to just swallow up plants, so I can always use extra plants in the garden. However, I've also noticed that over the years, I have had less and less success growing things from seed. I think some of that is that when you first start growing from seed or when you're new to growing from seed, you are very attuned to sort of following the rules and trying to do it right, and you're really on top of it. And when you have success doing that, you think, oh, I made way too much of this. I didn't need to make this such a big deal. So what you do then is you just kind of slack off a little bit. You maybe don't pay as close of attention, or you just expect that there's going to be some loss, so you don't worry about it. But then I think you tend to get, I think I got to a point where I got a little sloppy. And then you combine sloppy with taking on too much, and you don't have a lot of success. So new year, new me. I am trying to limit the amount of things I start from seed. Now listen, I have said this before, and I've been made a total liar from it. So January Erin is not necessarily March Erin, so we'll see how this works. But I'm going to try to be more realistic about the number of plants I need in my garden, try to be better about not starting every darn thing under the world, and not to be wooed by all the, Select Seeds is one of my favorite sources for seeds because they have really interesting types of flowers. And sometimes I'm like, oh, I want to try that. And, it's fine to add in for me, to add in one or two new things. But once you start adding in 10 new things on top of the 25 things you were already growing, this is where we run into issues. And I always regret it come April when I'm trying to manage all of these now grown on seedlings. So, new approach this year. Last year, I experimented a little bit with getting some seed plugs. So I ordered from Farmer Bailey. I have a wholesale account there, but I think anybody can order from Farmer Bailey. I'm pretty sure. Farmer Bailey sends in large plug trays. If you follow any channels that are flower growers, a lot of them will talk about Farmer Bailey. And they will send you a tray. Usually it's 125 plugs or 210 plugs. The 210 plugs are teeny tiny little things. I love the size of the 125s, but they just don't grow everything that way. And obviously I don't need that many. So I have been splitting trays with a gardening friend. And even when we split those trays last year, we still had too many. So we actually are looking, I think we found a third person to come in with us on a few of the trays. And so I have ordered some things from them. So we have done an early season order. The other thing is that you have to have 3 trays to get an order, and you have to pick your week. So this year we have ordered an early season order of pansies, foxglove, and actually I think it's Dara that we ordered. Carrot family, like a Queen Anne's lace kind of thing. I have tried to grow Orlea and those things before, and I've not had a lot of luck with it. But again, I haven't tried that hard. Like sometimes I just don't try that hard because I'm like, well, if it works, that's great. And if it doesn't, well, that's fine too. So we've ordered some trays of that. And then we've done I would say sort of early spring or maybe mid-spring order of zinnias, cosmos, and what's the third thing? And Verbena bonariensis. So all of those things are not super difficult to grow from seed, with the exception of, for me, the Dara. But everything else I have grown from seed. But it is one thing off my plate to not have to worry about. So we're going to try that out again this year, and that takes a few of the things, actually a lot of the flowers that I would like to grow in large quantities in my garden, takes those off my plate. Then I have also placed a personal order from of smaller order of plugs from a sister company to Farmer Bailey. So last year Farmer Bailey created a retail facing plant group called, let me look it up because I can't remember already what it's called. You can find it if you go to the Farmer Bailey website, but you can also get there by looking for, I'm just looking for my order confirmation here. Oh, that was under this one, I think. This is scintillating stuff here. Oh, come on, where did it go? Well, I have actually made, this is the other thing I'm doing this year, making a spreadsheet of my plant orders, because this happens every year. I think, oh, well, this is I'll remember what I ordered, and then I don't remember what I ordered, and I don't remember when it's coming, and then I get myself all messed up and stuff just shows up. So this is great. I really literally cannot find it. Fabulous, right? Great way to prove that this is really working. This is really working out well for me. Here we go. Let me look at the spreadsheet. Plant orders Garden Club Plants is what it's called. And so what they do is I don't know, I think they're the same size plugs you can order, maybe slightly bigger if you're ordering from the wholesale side. They come 8 per, they're considerably more expensive per plug than if you were buying the whole tray. But if you don't need a whole tray, it's better than throwing a bunch of plants away. So for that, I ordered these things. It's Daucus that we ordered, not Dara, but they're similar. Phlox Cherry Caramel, which I grew last year and loved. We ordered a tray of that last year, but we didn't need that whole tray. So I actually ordered 16 of those. Gonfalcarpus, which I love, but I have a challenge. It's challenging for me to find. Digitalis Cafe Cream, which is a true biennial foxglove, tiny flowered foxglove, which I have kind of limited success growing those from seed. Once I can get them in the garden, a lot of times they reseed themselves and we're good to go, but starting fresh can be a problem. Didicus Lacy Blue, I grew that last year. We also bought a big tray of plugs of that last year. I didn't need nearly as many as we had, but I really loved it in bouquets. I ordered a Delphinium, Belladonna Cliveden Beauty, which I think is going to be similar to Cheer Blue. Cheer Blue does reseed a little bit for me, so I might be good on that, but I just want to cover my bases. Plectranthus Silver Shield, which is one of my favorite foliage plants, and sometimes that's very easy to find, and sometimes it's impossible to find. Also can be grown from seed, I think, fairly easily, but I just thought it'd be easier to just start from plugs on that, and then I am going to try some Lysianthus. I needed one more thing to fill up the box. I thought, whatever, we're going to give Lysianthus a try. I'm not going to start it from seed because it just takes so long and I just don't have that kind of patience. If you need to know how to grow Lysianthus from seed, Yulia at Why Do You Garden just posted a video maybe a week ago or so on how she does it. She has great success with it, so that would be a good one to follow. So I am taking a lot of my ornamental seeds starting off of my plate by buying those things in plugs. The other thing I did was a massive seed clean out. So like the rest of the YouTube world, or most of them, I keep my seeds in these photo storage things. I have one for flowers, one for vegetables. And I went through everything. And a lot of these are actually, well, that one's not, but are actually empty now. And I did this because I think another thing that's been happening with my seeds is that I think I'm working from older seed stock. Now, seeds last for a really long time, and I think I store mine pretty well. I store them in the cool basement. It's generally dark down there. I probably should I saw this tip, take some of those anti-desiccant or desiccant, whatever they are, those little packs that come when you buy some stuff. They throw those little packs in there and say, do not eat. I saw someone say they throw some of those in their seed boxes to help keep things dry. And I think that's a really good idea. Next time I get a package of those with those in, I'm going to put some of those in here. I'm sure you can buy them too, but they come all the time, so why not put them in here? But I went through and I pulled out, basically the only things I kept were things that were 3 years old or newer, at least with a couple of exceptions, including tomatoes, which I never have a problem growing tomato seeds that are very old. Some things we know don't like to be old. Anything coated is generally not a good idea. Those don't keep very well. Onion seeds don't keep very well. I'm trying to think of a few other things that they generally say don't keep well. But for the most part, a lot of things will keep well. But I do feel that some of my seed problems with seed growing, in addition to things that I've already mentioned, are probably related to starting with old seed. So I did a massive clean out and everything old. I've got a few gardening groups that I'm a part of, and I just I offered those older seeds to people who want to give them a try. And I'll keep those until, I've got some takers for those. Anything that I had, I have a few things here that are, that like I found multiple packs of that aren't even opened, and these are pretty new, but I just know that I don't need this many seeds and they will be old by the time I get around to using them. These I'm going to take to the seed library. We have a seed library in town. But I didn't want to take those older things because if I'm having a problem with them, I don't want someone else to without, I guess I could leave a note on them or something saying, hey, these are a little older seeds, oversow on these. So I'm also taking a very measured approach to buying new seedlings this year. I'm not going to buy everything. I'm really just going to try to buy only the things I need to use or need for this year and really try to restrain myself. I did have to buy, well, it looks like there's a lot of sweet peas left in here, but actually I'm way down on sweet peas because last year I didn't buy any because I wanted to start using up what I had. Sweet peas seem to last for, it's interesting. For me, sweet peas seem to last for a long time, but there's a video on how I start my sweet peas, and I think I filter out a lot of the bad ones because I pre-sprout my seed peas, sweet peas. By the way, sweet peas, when I refer to sweet peas, I'm referring to the ornamental, non-edible plants. I am not referring to snap peas that happen to be sweet that are used for edibles. That gets confusing for people sometimes, understandably so. So I am starting to put in some seed orders for things. Now there are some things in terms of flowers that you can't buy started. Well, I always keep nasturtiums around. I have a pretty good selection of nasturtiums still left. I will probably pick up a few more of the baby series. There's baby orange, red, pink, I don't know, baby yellow. Several of them are actually All America Selections winners. I'll probably pick up like one more pack of those, but I've got enough of these. I like nasturtiums because I use them as fill-in plants. I like to put them in my vegetable beds because they also are a really good companion plant for a lot of things. They either can be used as a trap crop. Also, interestingly, they can be used as a crop that actually keeps some bugs away. So I think for like squash bugs, check out the book Plant Partners by I think it's Jessica Walliser who wrote that one. Anyway, those can be used to ward off squash bugs, but other insects as well. Also, they're just very pretty and they're edible. So every part of a nasturtium is edible. So they work well for that reason in the vegetable garden too. So I always keep nasturtiums around because they're very easy to just direct sow, plunk them in wherever you need to fill something in. Nicotiana is probably, as many of you know, my favorite annual flower. And the varieties that I like to grow, I can't buy. In fact, to my knowledge, for most of these, you can only start these from seed. Unless you find a really good nursery who's growing interesting things. So one of my must-grow varieties is Langsdorffii. This is the little trumpet-shaped one. Slightly harder to start from seed than some other varieties, but none of them are particularly difficult. Actually, the biggest problem with Nicotiana seeds is that they are like specks of dust, and so there's almost no way to not oversow these. Last year I grew this one from Select Seeds called Mojito, which I tried last year. Very good color on these. Pretty tall though. Mature size, 3 to 4 feet. They were 3 to 4 feet, 3.5 feet, I would say, last year. But I can handle that size in my garden. So this is, I think, a good alternative to another one that I've grown quite a lot, which is Nicotiana alata lime green. Since I have these seeds already, I'm just going to grow this, but I am going to pick up some Nicotiana perfume lime, which is a nice short version of 20 inches that I can grow sort of at the front of the borders. And I like to experiment with some other ones too. So I'll probably pick 1 or 2 other varieties as well to grow for that. Vines this year. Oh, I am going to grow a lot of castor bean. I used to grow that, and then I took a few years off, and then last year I grew it again, and I remembered how much I love that plant. And actually, one very nice viewer sent me some of hers, which she has shared with so many people who love them. And I kind of love these plants that everyone's kind of growing them. Anyway, so I have a ton of seeds from her, so I've got that covered. I think this year I'm going to change up the front border underneath the window box. If you watched my sort of winners and losers awards, the last video I put up from 2025, one of the biggest disappointment of my year last year was how poorly the dahlias grew. That was not specific to me. That was a very common experience among many people who had, and my theory on this is that it all goes back to a very cold snap we had last May. Now my dahlias were not in the ground at that point. They were not planted out. They were in the greenhouse, which was being heated. But I think that stretch of cold May, and I believe I made a video on that too, and it was, I think, the coldest May we've had in 100 years, or like since they started keeping records. It was really weird. I think everything just got so far behind. I think the soil temperature got cooled down quite a lot. So even though we were planting in June, things were really slow to get going. I think the growth on everything was suppressed because of that cold snap we had last year. One of the lessons I learned from that was to maybe not rely so much on dahlias for a lot of the show in my garden, which makes sense anyway, because a lot of those dahlia varieties just don't start blooming until August. We got a lot of summer before August, right? Now, this is a bit of an iffy situation because the castor bean also didn't start doing anything till then. But I think if I start them early enough and keep them warm enough and plant out warmer plants, and particularly if I'm growing in that skinny bed underneath the window box, which is about a 2 foot or less by 18-inch deep bed. It might be 2 feet. But it's along the concrete patio against a white house facing south. So that is definitely a microclimate there. I think the structure of that there is going to be really pretty. There's a couple of dahlias I will put in there. I'm actually a little worried. On my agenda here for the next couple of weeks is I need to go down and check the dahlias, which I always do at the beginning of January anyway. I think my dahlia storage room got colder than I wanted it to. It doesn't freeze down there. I know it doesn't freeze down there because it's our well pump. But it probably got below 40 degrees, which is not a place I want to be storing dahlia tubers. So I'm going to check to make sure everything is good. I certainly hope I didn't lose a bunch of things. That would be knock on wood on that. I think what I will do is start some of those things ahead of time as cuttings this year. I read an article recently about how often dahlias grown from cuttings actually grow stronger than dahlias grown from tubers. It also is a good way to increase your stock. By the way, I did a video on this as well. I did HS date, grew a bunch of HS date from cuttings 2 years ago. Very successful. They all produced tubers that year. Some of them I used in a different garden, so I didn't get those back. Somebody else's garden. So I actually think I'm, believe it or not, light on HS date now. But those plants did grow very strong and did grow very well. And I know that growing from cuttings is, I think, a little bit more common in the UK than it is here. So there's one particular dahlia, a buttercup, that I would like, that I grew last year and saved the tubers from, but I would like perhaps a lot of those. So I think I'm going to do some of those, start some of those from cuttings so I can increase my stock on those and also ensure that I'm going to have them. I mean, that's the other thing. It's a good way to make sure you've got some plants going because you never know what could happen with tubers, right? So that's sort of part of my planning this year, but it is going to be a bit of it. Oh, and then as far as vegetables go, going to take a very measured approach on what I grow from vegetables too. I will find some weird thing that I haven't grown before that I want to grow. I always love growing weird things in the vegetable garden that are new to me. I've discovered some great plants that way. I'm going to grow more large tomatoes than I did last year. I didn't buy any tomato seeds last year because I didn't think I had to. But then when it came time to plant tomatoes, I realized I had mostly started cherry tomatoes. Which is great. Love a cherry tomato. I love how early they can be because you can actually start eating tomatoes earlier than some of the big ones. But I really missed having big tomatoes. So I'm going to make some new selections for some tomatoes. I tend to prefer growing the dwarf tomato project tomatoes, which are dwarf plants, not dwarf tomatoes. But I am going to I'm going to keep myself open to trying a couple of new larger tomato varieties. And I'm going to try to limit myself and decrease the total number of tomato plants I grow. I'm growing about 18 to 20 in 2 garden beds. I think I would have more success with them if I didn't have so many packed in there. So I think if I can get that down to, I think 16 would be a fine number. Maybe even 14 would be a fine number. We'll see where I can get it to. Because if I can produce more tomatoes, I don't need that many tomato plants anyway. One of the things I was kind of shocked at when I was going through the Johnny's catalog, I love Johnny's. I think they have really good seeds. I was looking at their cucumber selection because I do love cucumbers and we eat a lot of them. And there is one in here that I was looking at, and it's called Gimlet. And last year I tried sashimi. I still have some of those seeds left. I tend to like a skinny English type cucumber. One of the ones that I grow all the time is English Prize, or Chelsea Prize English cucumber, which I get from Renee's Garden Seeds. That's an excellent one. And it's interesting, this one is actually listed as, the one that I'm about to tell you about here, is listed as a greenhouse type. So is that sashimi, which I grew perfectly fine in my garden last year. Okay, where are the cucumbers? Okay, here we go. There's a cucumber that sounds very interesting to me in this catalog, and it is called Gimlet. Lime green snacker. Early multi-fruiting cocktail cuke with very high yields and short vines. Attractive uniform fruit with distinctive bright green color and a sweetness uncommon in snack types. Harvest at about 4 inches. Yeah, you guys, it's $10.20 for 10 seeds. What? I mean, okay. Here's the thing. I have had the incredible fortune to get a behind the scenes look at how multiple times from multiple perspectives on how the gardening industry works. So I've been on a few like plant company trips where we see like how tissue culture works and how many people touch each plant. I mean, last year when I went on a trip with Bailey Nursery and we saw a little bit about their tree production, I was like, why are trees so cheap? Because it's unbelievable how much time and labor and work go into producing plants. And on the flip side, I've also seen some of what goes into breeding plants and creating plants. And it takes it's like often like 10 or more years between the time that a plant, and I'm not talking about even like perennials, I'm talking about like annuals. Certain perennials and shrubs can be even more, before you narrow down a plant and you learn how to produce it and you get it productive and you get it into people's hands and you've trialed it in all these places. Yeah, like there is a ton that goes into it. So I rarely now, with that, working from that viewpoint, I rarely go back and think, how do they get off charging that much for a plant? Because honestly, when you see how much goes into it, you do think, how are they making any money only charging that for a plant? That's how your perspective shifts. I'm not usually one to look at the price of a plant and say, what are they doing? But gosh, $1 a seed for cucumber seeds, ironically, it kind of makes me want to try it to find out if it can possibly be worth that. But we'll see. So they have a really great cucumber selection. I will say this is probably going to be this will be my first year ordering from Pine Tree Garden Seeds. I've seen a lot of people, gardeners who I have a great deal of respect for, talk about getting seeds from here. Very well priced. So I'm going to place an order for a lot of the things that I can from Pine Tree Garden Seeds this year. In fact, I'm almost ready to hit send on that order. Now, they don't have necessarily as huge, certainly not nearly as big of a selection as Johnny's, and they don't offer like some of the really interesting flowers like Select Seeds does. But for some of the basic things, I'm going to go with it. There's some things too, like Renee's Garden Seeds. Their Giganti Italian parsley is the only one I want to grow. That Chelsea Price cucumber. I mean, there's a lot of things that I get for, and they have the best salad green mixes too. So there are some things, I guess I'm not specific to one seed company. I think I've sort of developed a feel for what I need to buy from where. The one thing I always buy from Johnny's, because I think they're the only ones who have them, is the Salanova lettuces, which are amazing. Beautiful, so delicious, easy growing, but those are pelleted seeds. So like I had pelleted seeds that were 2 years old and I tossed them because I just know they're not gonna produce that well. So Johnny's is where I go for that. Anyway, that's where I'm at in sort of my gardening year here. I'm going to try to get these seed orders done so those are out of my mind and I'm not thinking about it, and then I can move on to thinking about other things, which mostly is now getting into hammering down on designs. There is a new area that I'm gonna be developing, a small little addition to the garden that I'm gonna be doing for next year. I'm going to be reworking this area a portion of the area right outside the back door here. Almost made it before the battery ran out, but not quite. And then I've got some other design projects that I'm working on elsewhere. And all of those I've got concepts for. Maybe I can give you a sneak peek. Here, I'll just give you, this means nothing to you. But that gives you a little idea of the garden expansion bit. But all of these are very conceptual at this point. So now I need to go through and really hammer down on designs. And these are, not fully measured out designs. So I need to actually walk around, measure things out, graph things out, and then really get down to speccing plants for these so that I can put in plant orders and be a little bit organized on that so that I'm doing like all of the projects in one plant order rather than multiple plant orders because delivery charges are expensive. If you've made it this far in the video, thank you for hanging in there with me. I appreciate you guys so much for hanging out with me here at the kitchen table. Is garden chat at the kitchen table. I would love to hear from you what you guys are working on in your garden right now or thinking about in your garden right now, where you're at with seed starting, if you're doing it this year or not. Or if you're changing what you're doing. Hey, one thing I might do this year is I might try winter sowing again. I have failed epically with winter sowing. It is like, according to many people, the easiest way to start seeds. And yet it doesn't work well for me. Maybe I'll try it again with some of these other things, particularly like perennials and stuff. Maybe I'll try some of that. You're not really out more than a little bit of soil and a few seeds and whatever effort it took to find some milk jugs. So I would love to hear from you guys what you're up to in your garden, where your thoughts are at, and I don't know what I can help you with. So have a great day in your garden. Thanks for watching, you guys. Hope I didn't blab on too long. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.